My name's Shaun Bishop, based in the UK in Liverpool. I'm a cinematographer and I mainly work on commercial stuff, corporate stuff, and narrative here and there. So the project we're here to talk about is Older Gods, a cosmic horror where an American comes over to the deepest, darkest depths of Wales to uncover some secrets about the death of a long-lost best friend. When he starts to unravel some of the mysteries that struck with the suicide of his friend, he starts to unravel cultish sort of behaviors with gods and monsters and followers. I met David at university and we fell in love with the same sort of films, same sort of style of films. When we left university, we parted ways, and after a few years of working freelance and stuff like that, we came together and said, do you want to start a business of some kind and make films for people and use our skill set to make money and go forward? And from there on in, the goal was always to make features, but then life gets in the way. Families are made, marriages, houses are bought. So the kind of creative and passion projects that you wanted to be involved with take a little bit of a backseat to, say, the corporate narratives or the corporate productions, the commercial work. One year, Dave walked into the office and says, we're not doing this anymore. Let's just put everything in. He watched the TED talk, the cavalry's not coming. He saw that and he just kicks the office door down and said, we're not waiting anymore. We're not waiting for funding. We're not waiting for backers. And then literally that year, we got a little bit of backing for a film that we were going to produce called Patriarch. We had casting directors looking for people to fill the roles. We had schedules and everything was in place. And then COVID hit, and then the money got taken away, and it was still that ethos of we're not going to wait. So we set ourselves a task and a deadline to create the cheapest film we could possibly make. So it was okay, so how can we strip that back? How can we have one main character? How can we have one location? Dave went about writing Older Gods. He'd lost a friend, so he kind of used that experience in his writing. In terms of where we take our inspiration from, he loves sci-fi, he loves horror, he loves cosmic horror. He's just one of those guys that has a DVD collection that you do need a storage facility for. So he watches everything, he takes it all in, and we kind of set ourselves a task of, by the time lockdown started easing up, we want to be in the place where we can at least start principal photography. We'd found a location which was in the deepest, darkest depths of Snowdonia, very remote location, and we'd work with a large percentage of the cast before. When I first started talking to Dave about how I saw things, especially with the location being so rural, we wanted quite earthy tones. I think Atlas Orion came onto my radar early 2019 anyway. I think I saw a few videos from some people that were testing, seeing on different cameras what they were achieving and the kind of tones that people were achieving. It had that, I hate using the term, filmic quality. Things that you think about original cinema. It was achieving those kind of things, and I thought, I want to get my hold on those. We'd be doing something feature length. So as soon as I hear feature, I think anamorphic anyway. I don't think about spherical. I want that real estate. I want to show off those landscapes. And then when we come inside to a very claustrophobic cottage, I want to show as much real estate on screen as possible. I want Rory on screen. I want to show a little bit of what he's going through and have that voyeuristic kind of feel. We used the 40 prolifically. It was our workhorse. It did everything I wanted and more. I would move the camera and I would achieve the look I want. So it's the Lost Highway, where they kind of use of ultra wides, but it kind of shows his craziness with that warp. We wanted that kind of, we're looking through the windows at him, we're in his space, being part of that with him, and the 40 achieved that. And when we were getting the kind of flares, the tones, I don't have a lot of experience with anamorphics per se, but not having all that camera set up and stuff, being able to walk around with that 40 and set up and have that on my shoulder for hours was quite beneficial. And we wanted to do that with minimal setups because, as I mentioned before, Dave, he likes movement. So if Roy's standing up from the couch and moving through the front room, I want to be able to track and pan with him. I don't want to be seeing lots of C stands. I don't want to be trying to hide those things. So we wanted to use a lot of natural light, and if possible, the little pops of light here and there. We used a lot of aperture MCs to kind of add a little bit of kisses of light here and there, and the B7s just for practicals. If I could get away with just using those throughout those scenes, I did. If there wasn't a lot of movement, we'd bring in another key light, just kind of add that kiss or that backlight. What we wanted was the darks to be dark You know, if he stood in darkness, I didn't want that manufactured kind of the new horror-esque thing where it's almost day for night when you're inside. Some cinematographers are scared of you losing that information. I feel it adds to the lostness that the character feels sometimes. If you don't see him, you don't see everything. If he stood in the dark, we see edges of him. We see his face is coated in shadows, and it gets darker as we go through the movie. We see less of him and then more of him and less of him and more of him. We paired it with the Blackmagic 12K, mainly because of budget. Our commercial business uses Blackmagic extensively. We had it in DaVinci Resolve, and when we paired it together, the color science of the Blackmagic and the tones that we were getting from the Atlas Orions, it made very much sense just to stick with what we know. Really, would I go with an Alexa Mini in the future? Well, why not? But if someone said, Shaun, we're going to set up and ready to shoot tomorrow, you've got your lens, you've got your camera there, I'd pick the Blackmagic camera there, stick an Atlas Orion on it, and we'd get some very, very gorgeous footage. We've got a working production company. We provide marketing videos and commercial videos and corporate videos for people on a daily basis. It's our bread and butter. It's how we make our money. So we can tap into those resources as and when. So it kind of helped us in terms of budgeting. We're able to get everything within 14 days in about 2 weekly 7-day blocks with a couple of pickups here and there. The first main block was based in Wales. It was a cottage. You know, when cottages were built in the early part of the century, everyone was shorter, everyone was thinner. There's not a lot of room for movement. So when we started thinking about production and stuff like that, it was, well, in terms of what I need to do and what Dave likes to see. Dave likes to see movement with the camera, almost documentary-esque, where there is a lot of movement. That movement tells the story. In terms of having a footprint of lights knocking around, it's how I keep that quite minimal, using as much natural light as possible. Your lenses actually came in quite handy there, you know, being able to open up a little wider. We went out there with about a crew of 6, and in the first block, 3 actors that came and went. We had our sound guy, our effects guy, production assistant, production designer, myself who was owner, operator, lighting, and then Dave directing and working with the talent. So because it was COVID, it was we'd gone through a certain amount of everyone go off into isolation just before we go into isolation again. So we'd had to keep everything quite small, quite manageable in terms of keeping everyone safe. It worked for us at the time, and it's something it's not too dissimilar to how we work normally. You know, we don't really work with huge crews. We keep everything quite light. I've known Dave for about 20 years now, so we've got a shorthand where we're done in grunts and clicks. Well, you know, I understand him, he understands me. Keeping things quite small helped us within the pandemic, and usually helps us get things done to the way we see them. So the one I have here is one of the opening scenes, and it's a bonfire scene where we're seeing people with masks on. There's someone who looks like he's been tied up and starting to be cut. So our main source of light is a bonfire with a few kisses of light from behind the individual who's being cut open and sacrificed, as it were, with the oranges and stuff like that from the fire. This is where the anamorphic kind of look comes in, just the flares that were coming off with the fires and the little touches here and there. We got some great stuff. And it's also how the film opens. So we've got tribal drums kicking off. We've got big bursts of flames. We've got people in masks. We've got a little bit of blood. It just opens the movie with a bang. I think we were wide open outside, a couple of extra pop lights here and there. That's just to show that we're in the woods. But the main key was from a bonfire that we used a friend's set of woods to access. We were able to have a location in Staffordshire, and he let us safely set a bonfire, and he managed it, and we're able to get the footage that we intended to. The next one I'm showing here is we've been introduced to the main character, Chris Rivers, played by Rory Wilson. He's turned up to the location in Wales. We open with like a phone call from Billy. He says, "You've got the package, go through it, read it." So one of the big things about wanting to use more natural light was scheduling our day around, okay, where is the sun hitting? Where can we make best use of where the sun's hitting the windows for us? Where are we getting direct sunlight? When are we getting non-direct sunlight? And that was the main key issue, because when you're shooting in America, I'm sure that you probably get a lot more sunshine than we do here, but we happen to have some of the best weather we've had in the years that I've lived in the UK. That last few years, we've had some great summers, and during that first week, we had like the biggest heat wave, and it was all very harsh, direct sunlight. So we first originally scheduled around, let's utilize the natural light in this times. Then it was just like, well, we can't utilize that natural light because it's just so harsh, and we don't have the G&E to kind of diffuse this on this scale that we want to be outside for. We would then maybe come inside and use some of the indoor shots. And this here is where he's introducing us to this package that Billy has sent him, and he's just got to the cottage, and we've got the key light is basically from the window. We're shooting up, and we've got this contrast in the background where wood beams and white plaster, and he's looking intently. The tones that we get in his skin, and the tones in the wood, and that distance that we created, and that upward shot. It's one of my favorites, and it just has that foreboding feel to it. This next one here is when he's settled in for the night. He's opened up the package and he's starting to listen to some video files that Billy has recorded for him. Basically a big exposition dump. This, I think, is about a 10-minute scene where Billy explains what's happened to him over the course of the last few years, where he started to discover a certain sect of people that believe in an older god, and sacrifices is a way of appeasing that god and joining them, and primordial fear, where because there are these older gods, we are part of a dream, and what we do and how we live is non-consequential or non-significant. And that's what he was looking into when he was discovering it. So we set up this scene where we didn't want a lot of movement. We just wanted a laptop. We wanted to look like he's sat in front of a cottage fire. We've got a little bit of moonlight hitting the back window. We've got a little bit of practicals either corner of the room there. That was basically it. It's very minimal. It was an RGB light with a fire effect added, 2 practicals on tungsten. They're giving us that warm glow, and then a little bit of boost of white light on a laptop there. It's just one of those ones where you look at it and it's like, you can hold that shot and listen to the exposition because it's an interesting shot. It pulls us in, and with this shot we then pull into a few close-ups where we watch Chris go through some of the evidence, go through some of the findings that Billy's left him, and go through that decision-making process in his eyes, where he's considering, does he want to get involved in this? Does he want to be like his friend, where he might end up crazy? This is the scene where it all starts to kick off from here. This is another one of those shots where we try to utilize natural light as much as possible. We waited for that golden hour hitting a window on the landing of the cottage. We put a solitary chair just in front of it, and it's a phone call between Chris and Billy's mum. And he's just ringing up to say sorry that he couldn't do more and he couldn't be there to stop Billy doing what he did, or what he apparently did. And we wanted that kind of hazy sunlight kissing the trees, using that golden tone. There's greens in the background, there's creams in the foreground, and we had a very small pop light just kind of filling, and maybe a little bit of white on the floor, just bouncing in front of him. And it's one of those shots where we did it with minimal lighting, and I'm just very proud that we waited for the right time. Rory was able to deliver a great performance when we had the sun. We weren't waiting for him to read his lines. We weren't waiting for him to get into character. He was set, he was ready to go because he knew we were on a schedule. And that was kind of the ethos of the shoot, is like we're all there almost like a boot camp. We all understood the mission. We all understood the assignment. We had certain shots that were time restricted. You know, we were in golden hour. We've got about 40 minutes before we start losing a lot of light here. How about we all just crack on and get this done in true small crew fashion? Everyone banded together, did what we could to get the footage, and we got some. I mean, that is one of my favorite shots. That one just makes the film. It adds a little bit of emotion. You know, he's very emotional talking to his friend's mum. It's kind of like adding that. We've had a little bit of a horror element before that, just before this phone call, and now we're getting into that drama element where we understand the connection that he might have had with this friend. So this is like the turning point in the film. I think if you're a fan of cosmic horror or psychological horrors, you'll be a fan of Older Gods. We've tried to show off the locations. We tried to amp up that kind of atmosphere. I think people who like horrors but don't really lean into that slasher, gory type horror, then they'll be really interested in this. And Atlas Orion set, and especially the 40mm, was a huge part in the look of this movie. Hopefully moving forward we can use Atlas more, but if you want to watch something that's going to make you think, maybe scare you a little, I think Older Gods would be a great movie for you.